Watch out, riders. Your Uber and Lyft bill could soon cost just a little bit more money.
Xbox, Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google,
eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon, Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and a few days ago, I did a little bit of a prank. It was a news story, but I did an article headline called Uber Raises Prices. And I wasn't lying in the title. Uber did raise the price, but they raised the prices for the bike service. And people definitely had a very polarizing reaction to that. Because when they read that headline, they assumed naturally that it was the ride fares for like the Uber services themselves, not the jump bikes. I got some down thumbs. I probably lost a couple subs, as some people definitely had nasty comments, but you know what? It was worth it because I thought that was just kind of funny. I thought that was, I knew I would tick some people off, but I just had to see what the reaction would be. And it was a fun day. However, now we have to be serious because now I have to do another headline, and this time the Uber and Lyft prices can, in fact, be going up relatively soon because there are at least a few cities planning to include taxes on the Uber and Lyft rides. However, before we talk about that, let's have a word from our sponsors.
If you have rideshare insurance, you know what a disaster it is. It's super expensive. Some guys are paying over $100 a month for it on top of their regular insurance. So we're working with an insurance company to help lower prices and get better coverage. They're working on a plan where Uber and Lyft drivers will either pay by the mile or by the hour. You'll only pay for what you use, but we need some information from you, the drivers. We need to know on average how far and how long you drive with Uber and Lyft each week. So would you click on the link below in the description and take just 5 minutes to fill out the survey? We'd really appreciate it.
Tax on Uber and Lyft going to San Francisco voters. So this is from Curbed. And it says here, on Tuesday, City Hall gave the final go-ahead for a ballot measure that would level a tax on Lyft and Uber rides and put the money toward transit programs, including a pledge to improve safety on San Francisco's most dangerous streets. The measure will appear on the November ballot. The Board of Supervisors unanimously favored the proposal to, quote, impose an excise tax on the net rider fares for rides facilitated by commercial ride-share companies and rides provided by autonomous vehicles and private transit services vehicles. If approved by voters, a 3.25% extra fee will be added for most individual rides and a 1.5% fee for shared rides that start in San Francisco. Great. There's going to be even more incentive to get an Uber pool or a Lyft line, and drivers are going to have to deal with more like, can you please not pick anyone up? I just don't want to pay the extra tax. Great. Thanks, San Francisco. The city estimates that this will push an extra $35 million into city coffers, which will steer towards mass transit and programs like Vision Zero, which aims to eliminate traffic deaths on city-owned streets. Look, noble cause. Good luck with that one. Voters will need to approve the measure by a 2/3 margin in order for it to pass. Which, by the way, I fully believe they will. First of all, it's San Francisco, and I'm sorry. I know I have viewers from San Francisco, but San Francisco sucks. That city, I don't like it at all. And not only that, San Francisco's in California. And in our last California election, we voted for higher taxes and for the gas tax, which was, in my opinion, unlawfully pushed onto people to not be repealed. So Californians just love being in debt and they love being taxed for some reason, especially people in San Francisco for some reason. According to the text of the legislation, commercial rideshare company means a person that provides prearranged transportation services for compensation using an online-enabled application or platform or any offline method to connect passengers with drivers using a personal vehicle. Now, that's an interesting description because I think Uber and Lyft have been... see, it depends what does commercial rideshare company means that a... according to the text of legislation, commercial rideshare company means a person that provides... Because a lot of the drivers for Uber and Lyft don't have commercial insurance. I don't know if that's like a loophole in that one, or maybe, but I'm sure like when it says commercial rideshare company, that probably means the company itself, not the driver. So anyway, the measure, authored by Supervisor Aaron Peskin in collaboration with Mayor London Breed, says that while it's not limited to services like Lyft and Uber, the lion's share of revenue from the potential future tax would come from rides via the two noted startups. The unanimous vote is no surprise, since the measure came up Tuesday with the entire board and the mayor signed up as co-sponsors. Back in May, both Lyft and Uber signaled their support for the plan as well. That leaves voters to be the only ones left to be convinced. So Uber and Lyft aren't even going to try to fight this one. But here's the thing. Like Peskin noted on Tuesday, cities like Portland and New York City have already leveled similar tax of their own. And that's not all, because the mayor of Boston also wants to put fees on Uber and Lyft. So, Boston Mayor Marty Walsh wants to increase fees on your Uber and Lyft ride with the aim of reducing congestion, cutting emissions, and raising money for local governments. Because that certainly cannot be accomplished by writing a bill that says you can only have this many amount of cars on the road. Like, taxis are regulated in that sense. That wouldn't solve the problem at all, would it? Anyway, Walsh made his case at a state house hearing Tuesday as lawmakers consider how and whether to further regulate ride-hailing services. Uber, Lyft, and other ride-hailing companies currently have a 20-cent per ride fee under state law. That revenue from that fee, which totaled about $16 million last year, goes to local government. How is it only 16? Oh, maybe Boston's a different market. The state transports fund and the taxi industry. Why is it going to the taxi industry? Why? Aren't taxis their own businesses? They're just regulated. Boston alone took in more than half of the money allocated for cities and towns, $3.5 million of the $6.5 million raised. But Walsh said the revenue doesn't go far enough for transportation investments, so he's pushing two bills that would change the fee on ride-hailing services to 6.25%, the same as the state sales tax. That would mean a 62-cent fee on a $10 ride. Shared rides or trips in zero-emission or electric vehicles would have a 3% fee, so basically half. There would also be a 20-cent fee for each mile a ride-hailing vehicle travels without a passenger inside during the morning and evening rush hours. Zero-emission vehicles would be exempt from the fee, which, fair. That's fair, until, of course, here's the thing. One of the things about congestion, what happens when all the vehicles are zero emissions? Which I know that's going to be like a long time, but we're heading in that direction. So what happens at that point? Then there's no money. Then there's going to be a new tax on top of that. But for the time being, if you have a zero-emission vehicle, like a Tesla, for example, or a Bolt or a Leaf, the Leafs are cute, actually, well, then I guess you don't have to pay this. Walsh said the legislation would encourage carpooling, reduce emissions, and help cities and towns improve transportation. Quote, this is about tackling traffic issues, it's about tackling the environment, and it's also about making additional revenues we can reinvest. I think that last part is more true than the other, but whatever. All the money that we're getting from transportation, we're reinvesting back into transportation and the taxi industry, which hasn't been able to legitimately compete for a while. In a statement, Lyft said the idea that fees would solve the state's transportation challenges is misguided. It's interesting that Lyft is opposing this tax hike, but not San Francisco. Probably because they're in San Francisco. And see, here's what's interesting about this. Because Lyft and Uber were okay with the San Francisco tax hike. But there's more to it here. And this is one of the reasons why San Francisco sucks, by the way. San Francisco is like a single-minded, single-viewing city. I mean, you can be, for example, a conservative in San Francisco, but you do so at your own peril. And if they do exist, they are probably very, very quiet about their political beliefs. Now, I don't say that up to make a big point about Democrats and Republicans. I say that because a lot of people in San Francisco are super liberal, and they are okay with being taxed if it goes towards the city. And I mean, when you look at that city, like some of the problems, like the fact that there's like literal, there's poop on the ground. There is poop in the streets there. Of course you're going to vote for that to be taxed because you want to get that stuff cleaned up. And Uber and Lyft are headquartered in those cities. They cannot publicly be against a tax that on the surface cuts emissions, encourages carpooling, and gets congestion down. You can't publicly oppose that in San Francisco because not only does the city collectively agree this needs to happen, but they know where you live and they will protest you. However, in Boston, a tax, which seems to be a lot nicer compared to the San Francisco tax, Lyft is actually against it. They say it's misguided. So it's very interesting to do these stories side by side. Sometimes you look at like the city culture, and it's kind of funny to see what Uber and Lyft will protest depending on what they think they can get away with. So increasing the cost of rideshare could lead more people to drive their own cars, which would increase vehicles on the road. Spokesman Campbell Matthews said, to truly have an impact on congestion, it's critical that lawmakers apply any proposed solution equally to all vehicles, including personal and commercial. Well, obviously, the thing that's wrong with that statement is, yeah, it might encourage people to drive their own vehicles, but then they're not using Uber and Lyft, which means Uber and Lyft drivers might not drive as much. So, yeah, that could be the cause and effect of that, just to let you know. Uber spokesperson Harry Campbell. Fascinating. Anyway, said in a statement that the company supports Walsh's efforts to reduce traffic, but rideshare vehicles represent a small fraction of cars in Boston, and the new taxes targeting rideshare customers punish Bostonians who don't have a car while doing little to invest in much-needed improvements in transit. Because, of course, when asked about supporting a similar fee on other vehicles traveling during rush hour known as congestion pricing, Walsh demurred, calling it a different situation. He added he said he's focused on the ride-hailing companies. That might not be fair in many people's eyes, but that's what it is. Ride-hailing has exploded in popularity. More than 81 million ride-hailing trips were taken in Massachusetts last year. A report last year by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which helped craft other transportation legislation, found the ride-hailing service had exacerbated traffic congestion in greater Boston, which is why this legislation is coming. So anyway, yeah, a lot of taxes coming. I'm definitely certain that the San Francisco tax will pass. I think that's a certainty at this point. The Boston, maybe not so much. I don't know about Boston. I'm not really familiar with the area. I'm not familiar with their politics, to be honest. But San Francisco, I can say, is pretty clearly going to pass, especially since Uber and Lyft are supporting it, because they know they have to support it. People from San Francisco, they have a single mind to a certain extent. They go in one direction, and you either go in that flow or you get out of the way, and that's exactly what they're doing. And of course, they're stationed there, so they don't want the protesters showing them at their headquarters, which they clearly know they will do. So anyway, we're going to end it right there. What do you folks think? Do you agree with these taxes? Do you think they should be risen? Do you think there should be taxes applied to everyone across the board? And what do you think about some of these taxes going to the taxi industry? I mean, because that seems more like you're taking money from one competitor and giving it to another. That seems like a conflict of interest to me, even though I'm not a huge fan of taxis, obviously. So anyway, I would love to know what you think. Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, with gas prices the way they are, if they're getting you a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want more content from me that's not rideshare related, subscribe to my other YouTube channels, Kevin T. Rodriguez, the Apptrepreneur Vlogs, and Autograph Hound. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow rideshare drivers, check us out on the Apptrepreneur Hangouts at Facebook. And as always, blame responsibly. Have a good one.